So, we met on the set of Nurse Nancy.
That's
And
right.
it's been how many years?
2 years
Oh my
since we
gosh.
shot it.
So, Julia was a director of Nurse Nancy, and I was an actor, and we met there, and I played a suicidal patient.
Mm-hmm.
And is it available now?
It's still kind of making its way around film festivals, so I don't have it publicly online, but you can watch a trailer.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're working on another film together, and Julia was asking about the Shapeshifting Documentary, which I've been working on with the team for about a year and a half. And she has a shapeshifting story in her family that's been passed down from a few generations.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that since we've been making this documentary, a number of people in my life that I know very well have come to me with stories. Like maybe it wasn't the time to share them, or it's just something that was in families passed down, because I've never heard these stories, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing more and more, so it's super exciting.
Yeah, I don't think we tell the story much outside of our family, other than, until now, till, people, close friends or whatnot, other family members. So just, I don't know, because it's family lore, so.
Well, thank you for telling it. Like, I'm really excited.
Sure, yeah.
So, tell me the story about your great-grandmother.
That's right. So this story was originally told to my father in French, and he translated it into English when he told me when I was younger. And it goes all the way back to my great-great-grandma Duquette, and she lived in northern New York, southern Canada region, near to the town at the time of Plattsburgh. And when times were tough, because she was a widow, she would bring in boarders and rent out a room in her home. So during the summer one year, she took in a young man who worked in Plattsburgh, who preferred to stay outside of the city in the woods, and so he rented from my great-great-grandmother. And he's a great tenant. He paid his rent on time and paid all of his bills. My grandmother fed him his meals, and everything was fine. However, one night of the year, or the month I mean, he would go missing for a few days. And she didn't question it or think anything of it. And then one day he came home from work, and he had to travel very far into the town, so he either rode or walked in. It took a really long time, so he'd kind of get home late, eat, and then go to sleep. Well, he went missing, and that night, and the next day she was up doing her chores and ironing and cleaning and whatnot, and she heard a wolf howling in the woods behind her cabin, behind the home that they shared. And she didn't think much of it. There was plenty of wildlife back then, so it wasn't uncommon, and she went about her business. Well, the evening started to settle in, and it became dusk, and she had one of those old-fashioned irons, like you would see back in the day, like an antique iron, would have been contemporary at the time, on the stove. And stove was sort of near to a window that was open, and she's near the window, and she looks out, and there's a wolf sort of coming in the window towards her. And so just, totally scared her. She grabbed the iron and threw it at the wolf, and the iron hit the wolf in the face. And, I'm not sure, it either yelped or howled and, ran off into the woods, and it was gone. And so the next day, the boarder didn't come home. So he went missing for several days. He didn't come home the next day. And the day after that, she didn't see anything of him. And then finally on the third day, she sees him walking up the road, and he's bandaged on the side of his face that she had hit the wolf with the iron. And the first thing he does, and this is very out of character for him, is just like, "Miss Duquette, I'm going to move out now." And he paid the rest of his bills, and he moved out immediately at that time, and she never heard from him or saw him again. And so she always swore that he was a werewolf, or as in French they say, a Loup Garou. And she was really convinced of it, and it was told to me as a true story as a child, so.
Wow, what an incredible story. It's interesting because I did read some articles back in France, I don't know how many years ago, but they'd say, werewolves would just come through the town, and it was commonplace to see them. Like, it would be in articles, like that was how it was, and people believed it. And
yeah. Well, so I was asking my father about this story recently, and then he informed me of another story. It's a little dicier, if you want to hear it.
Yes, yes, I do.
All right, so same, family line. My great-great-grandmother's daughter-in-law, her last name was Lamette. She also had a shape-shifting story that occurred later on after the Loup Garou story. So she went to, as a young girl, this was my great-grandmother, Lamette, went to a town dance, and her family didn't really want her to go to it, but she went anyways, and she went with her best friend, and they, walked there together, and were having a good time, and this man came in, very dark, very handsome, sleek hair, and they'd never seen him before. And so it was a small town, so it was, this mysterious, handsome stranger, and my great-grandma Wilmette's best friend was very taken with him, and so they danced the whole night, and when it was time to leave, my great-grandmother Wilmette, said to her friend, okay, let's go, it's time to walk home, and she's like, no, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to walk out with this gentleman, because back then they called it walking out, like if you're going to go off with another person, and so yeah, she said, no, I'm going to walk out with this guy. So she did that, and she was never heard from again. And my great-grandma Wilmette swears that she went outside and it had just snowed that night, and she saw the footsteps of her friend, and then next to the footsteps were cloven hoof prints. And one thing that she had noticed is this man had a big jacket on, and he never took his jacket off the entire time. It was like a big long jacket, and which didn't really stand out too much because it was cold and it just snowed, and then she swore she had seen a tail under the jacket. So
wow.
She always claimed that the devil walked out with her friend. So, either a devil or demon, or if the story, how it's evolved, but.
Whoa. See, in our research of all the different shape-shifting in different cultures, there's a lot of shapeshifters. Like in Brazil, there's shape-shifting men that are dolphins that come up at night and lure women.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the lore, there's a ton of that.
Yeah.
And then different animals in different cultures.
That are known for luring women to their disappearance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's fascinating.
And in fact, I'd never been told this story before. I think they probably deemed it too graphic or something as a child. The Loup Garou story was, told whenever the moon was full. My dad would like to tell that story, so.
Yeah, so what happens in our culture that we don't tell these stories anymore, and we, they're fantasy and what's escaped? Like, could it be real? Do you think it's real?
So my great-great-grandmother, her story was passed down and told as real. So I can't say for sure, but I believe there's a lot more than what we see just every day, and there's a lot more beyond our comprehension. So I think it's possible, and yeah, like I said, it was always told to me as a true story.
Yeah, I think we're much more than we think we are.
Much more complex, and
yes, there's a lot missing. We are capable of so many things, and I'm so excited to hear these stories and have them brought up and out in the public eye, so we can discuss more. Whoa, let's relook at all these fantasies, like the pop culture with the X-Men and all different shapeshifters in our media. We're fascinated with it, and why? Maybe because it's true.
Right. I think so.
And so let's just see what more we're capable of.
Yes, let's.
And make that next movie, too.
Indeed.
All right,
I'm
thank
excited.
you.
Thank you for having me, letting me tell my family stories.
Thank you for telling them.
Absolutely.